So MMOs have evolved a lot in the last 10 years. And the one thing that we definitely wanted to avoid was the punish the player syndrome. MMOs are definitely moving away from this, but it's things like when two players that aren't in a group kill a monster, why shouldn't they both get credit for it? Why shouldn't they both get rewarded for it, fully rewarded for it, and not split it? In first generation MMOs, one of the players would get punished for it and not get rewarded at all. In the next generation, they split the rewards, but we're much more inclined to, you want to encourage the players to do this. You want them to fight together. You want them to meet each other. So why not make it as cool as possible to fight monster, get rewarded for it, exchange greetings, say, hey, you want to group up, you want to go, explore together, and that's how you make friends in an online game, and we want to make sure that we're facilitating that as much as possible. One of the core design philosophies we wanted to get behind in our content system is we wanted to make an MMO that delivered content to the player. I know that's a technical statement, but that gives content to the player without them even knowing that they're being delivered content. So if you think in other online games, in other MMOs, especially the previous generation, you have the following scenario. You're going into a new area of the game. You see this interesting looking ruined tower off to the left, and you see a town ahead of you. These games have, in fact, taught you, in fact, brutally so, to ignore the cool looking thing altogether and to go to the town where you know you're going to find someone who's going to tell you to go back to the tower. Otherwise, it's useless to explore the tower. So, to me, that's dumb. The Elder Scrolls games, really what you do, and this is what you do in Elder Scrolls Online, is you see something interesting, you go over there, you find something to do. In fact, it might be a long sequence of quests. In fact, it can kick off a large amount of content. And you get something to do right there, you get rewarded for it, and then you can go to the town. Like, you don't have to do things in a certain order. You can go to the tower, and after the tower you might see an interesting camp of bandits off in the distance, and you go over there and there's something else to do. You don't have to do things in a certain order. With MMOs, they're traditionally end games, and these are, of course, to give players a variety of things to do. A lot of times it's portrayed as, oh, the PvE gamers want to do this, and the PvP gamers want to do this, but really in more modern games, it's you're an end game. You get to the end game. You leveled some alts. You want to make sure when you log in, you have something to do. So some nights you want to PvP, some nights you want to go into a dungeon. So we're going to support, of course, the traditional PvE raiding gameplay. We have our own little spin on it. As far as PvE goes, we have a dungeon raiding system where you can go with your group or a group of groups and fight through and find interesting content underground, fighting monsters. Our little interesting rub on that is that the combat you get into in dungeons is many versus many typically. So if there's many of you, there'll be many monsters. So we're trying to simulate as much as possible the combat style you find in PvP in a dungeon in PvE. Of course, there are situations where many of you are fighting some giant boss, but the Elder Scrolls IP in general doesn't have many giant bosses. It has lots of factions, it has lots of bandits, it has lots of groups of people. So in our dungeons, you tend to be fighting groups of things. So the part of the IP that we worked with the most to ensure that it was closest as we could get it in an MMO to what it would be in a console solo game is I'm the hero. In the Elder Scrolls games, you're always the hero. Like, you're, whether you want to or not in some cases, You go out there and you kill the dragons. You defeat Mehrunes Dagon in Oblivion. In Morrowind, you're up there fighting the Tribunal. Those are huge global epic things that you don't want to stand in line to do them in an MMO. Like, the last thing you want to do is have the final confrontation with Mehrunes Dagon as he's stomping across the Imperial City and you see like 15 guys behind you waiting to kill him because they're on the same quest. So as MMO online designers, the thing we needed to make sure we hit the most was that feeling that you're awesome, you're the hero. And we do that, of course, through a mix of technology where when I am confronting a major foe in the game, I'm doing it in an instance where I'm alone. And we have a whole part of the game that's 100% solo, which is the main story, where the world focuses on you, you're the hero, everything you do is solo, and the world reacts to you that way. Having been in MMOs for a long time, I know and understand that community very well. And that is the very vocal community, a lot of times vocal critics of what you're doing. But those people that take the time to pick your game apart, and sometimes they tell you things that you didn't even know were wrong with your game, those are the people that you want playing your game because they're the most vested in the community and that they care enough about it to complain. The worst, situation for a game community to be in is when no one posts on the boards because they don't care. And if they're posting on the boards, they care. Yeah, even if they're not being so polite about it. And so, but that's a fact of life. And you're an internet game. You're on the internet. You have an internet community, and the internet community is always very vocal. So what you do is you learn from it. You make sure that you do the best job to deliver the best game that you can, and then you go from there.